if you really mean completely self-sufficient, autonomous, then you have to start, I think, with how much land do you own? How much land is really yours, or are you actually certain that you can pay for it if you are basically renting it? The best is, of course, to own the land outright, but and then it has to be a certain size of land with a certain kind of irrigation, etc., big enough to sustain a family or something like that. And that's pretty big already. I believe it's about 10 or 20 acres or something that you really need to be able to well, for instance, get firewood, get food, well, raise some chickens, have some pigs running around, or a cow. The amount of cows per acre is not enormous. They're very, let's say, energy intensive in that way. The best example for how to farm, I thought, was, or I think, is Joel Salatin, who shows how you can, by just growing grass and never really plowing the land or doing anything else to it than allowing it to grow, by growing all kinds of different types of grass and plants together, you can actually feed chicken, you can feed other animals on the land, and so you don't need fertilizer, you don't need to plow, you don't actually need stables to keep animals in because you're moving them around. The only weakness in his approach is there's two things. One is that he does feed the animals with extra grains, I believe, that he buys somewhere in the neighborhood, but then maybe he can simply trade those for the chickens that he grows. And he has shelter in the winter for the animals. But otherwise he has a forest which he uses to let the pigs run around, and what he basically does is he tries to keep a good eye on how much nitrogen, so that's ammonia and all that stuff, in the manure enters the ground, so that it's never too much for the ground to actually process it and turn it into biomass again to feed the animals. So Joel Salatin, I'll write the name down. It's a really amusing guy. He can also, let's say, he's a very good communicator, I think, and he has a special language of what he does. So if you have well, then you would have a farm with something to eat on it, and I think that's a lot of, or that can be a lot of work, but actually it's doable, as you can see from Joel Salatin's setup. Then you look at the house, and if you, well, there's some concepts about building sustainable housing like Earthships, but I don't think it's really necessary to go anywhere, let's say, where the look is completely dominated by your choice for sustainable materials. You can have, well, you can, of course, if you grow bamboo, for instance, you could make, well, panels out of bamboo, and then you use the panels to build your house. Or you can use straw, which I think is a very good way to build walls that are very highly insulating. It's biomass, it's fireproof if you press it very tightly, and it's easy to build. And so you're done in a few days, and you only need a roof and all that stuff. So basically, you could say if you build a house, there's two aspects to it. One is the materials that you use. You could use biologically or grown materials, and on the other hand is how sustainable is it. And there you can simply look at how much sun enters it, what happens when the sun is high. Let's say those are design principles that don't really dictate the materials that you use. So there's two independent things. And in that respect, you can become, in terms of living comfort, I think you can become easily independent of anybody else. You can simply build a house if you have the space to do that, and the energy and a little bit of money. Build a house that is simply comfortable, has warm water, everything. A funny aspect of being self-sufficient is, of course, processing waste. So you would have biological materials that you would put on the compost heap, but somebody I know has been looking into what happens if you have to have a toilet, and that can be very complicated vis-à-vis the law. But even that is, let's say, if you have the primitive solutions like a septic tank or something like that, it's not then that's solved also. So this might be not a very, let's say, very innovative answer, but I think that if you want to eat, you need land, and it has to be the right size to sustain whatever you know, the people you want to be have living on them. And if you need firewood to heat your house, that's of course a bad choice. If you can also insulate very well, make sure that there's enough sun that enters the house, etc. But so that would be my thoughts primarily. I'm actually asked to help design a special house, so I'll put a link to that beneath, let's say, the basic description of it. I'm working on that right now, which would not be from renewable materials, but per se, but would be very easy to build and very energy efficient and have all kinds of aspects of it. But I hope this is helpful. Thanks for listening.